So after completing this particular module, you should be able to describe the process for gaining access to the ezFedGrants portal. Now we know that we need an e-authentication level 2 account. We can kind of explain what that is, and we can describe at least what the process is like to get that e-authentication account. So now we're going to take a look at how you can gain access to the ezFedGrants portal. So ideally you should be able to, at the end of this particular module, describe the process for that as well. What do you need to get access to the ezFedGrants system? Well, the first thing you're going to need is that level 2 e-authentication access that we just went over. And then there are a couple of other things that you're going to need. First of all, users requesting the grants administrative officer role. So there are a couple of different roles that are available to you, or a few different roles available to you through the ezFedGrants system. Typically it's going to be grant administrative officer, grant processor, and signatory official. So users requesting the grants administrative officer role, which is essentially the account administrator for your organization, who are also the first users from their organizations to request access to the ezFedGrants portal, will have their access requests approved by their USDA Grants Management Officer. All subsequent user requests, including additional GAOs, will be approved by the individual assigned as GAO for that organization. So really what this is saying is that if you're the first person requesting access for your organization, you must request access as a grants administrative officer, and that access request will be approved by your USDA AGMO. Any subsequent request for access from your organization will be approved by that initial grants administrative officer. Also, before you can request access as a grants processor, signatory official, or reviewer, another individual from your organization must have been provisioned by your USDA agency with the grants administrative officer role. So here we're just kind of reiterating what we said before, which is that the first person for your organization to request access must request access as a grants administrative officer, and that initial access request is going to have to be approved by a USDA agency representative, depending on which agency that you're working with. So helpful hints, some things to keep in mind as we talk about getting access to ezFedGrants. All users, regardless of requested role and the order of request submission, are going to follow the same procedure for submitting the access request. So basically, the steps that we're going to look at now, everybody is going to follow the same steps regardless of which role they're actually requesting access for. Also, once a user's access request for the GAO role has been approved by the USDA AGMO, all subsequent access requests for that organization will be approved by the GAO user, including additional GAO requests. So we talked about that on the previous slide. If you have ezFedGrants portal access through an organization that you are no longer involved with, and this is going to be important to keep in mind, the GAO from that organization must deactivate your user account with your previous organization before you can submit a new access request for your new organization. So I think what this is saying is that if you switch jobs, for example, maybe you go to a completely different organization, but you're still working within the grants realm, and more specifically, you're still working within the ezFedGrants system, you're going to have to get your initial ezFedGrants access old organization deactivated before you can get a role provisioned for yourself for your organization. But that's only if you're planning, again, to move from organization to organization. Keep that in mind. Also, users transferring organizations may need to update their e-authentication contact information before submitting a new access request, so that may be something you need to keep in mind as well. Again, if you have any questions about that, I would recommend contacting one of the local registration authorities to get your questions answered, or of course your agency representative may be able to point you in the right direction as well. And one last helpful hint, any field encountered within the system that has an asterisk associated with it is going to be a required field. I think that's pretty standard. Also, please keep in mind, as we mentioned twice now previously, data used in this procedure is going to be a representative sample for the purpose of training. Any actual data that you encounter in the system may vary based on agency and scenario. This is all test data that we're going to be taking a look at. The direct link to ezFedGrants is going to be grants.fms.usda.gov. Alternately, you can navigate through the ezFedGrants information website at nfc.usda.gov/ezFedGrants, NFC being the National Finance Center. And you should be able to, through there, kind of access a screen that looks like the screenshot that we have. You'll notice that there is a button here called Training. Once you get to that NFC site, you should be able to click on that training link to access some additional training documents, job aids, for example. I believe there are some FAQ documents there as well. But again, I'll try to make sure that these slides are available to everyone, at the very least in PDF format, so that you can have these for your records, so that you can have these URLs on hand if you need them. Once you get to the ezFedGrants page, you're just going to scroll down a little bit, and you want to click the Launch ezFedGrants button, which should appear on the left-hand side. As I mentioned earlier, you can select Training to access job aids and other training information. But in order to access or to launch that ezFedGrants portal, you just want to go ahead and click on the Launch ezFedGrants button. From there, once you click on that, you will then be asked to enter your e-authentication level 2 credentials to enter the site. So this is why it's important to get that first, and why you need to get that first. But once you do, you enter in your user ID and password, and it should bring you here, which is the ezFedGrants homepage screen. So here is where you're actually going to have to go in order to get access to the portal. And you'll note that in the screenshot, currently we don't actually have the ability to do anything other than contact the USDA, which that link will send an email to the ezFedGrants help desk. You'll note that also on the left-hand side there is a request access link. That request access link is what you're going to have to click on to, of course, request access for yourself. Once you select that, you should be taken to the request access screen, which should look something like this. You'll note that you can click the user role field to select your desired role from the user role drop-down menu. Again, please keep in mind that if you're the first user for your organization to get access to the system, you must select the Grants Administrative Officer role, and that Grants Administrative Officer role allows you to essentially be the account administrator for your organization. Here in the example, though, we're kind of presupposing that this isn't the first time that we've requested access for our organization, so we're going to take a look at somebody going to be requesting the grant processor role. One thing I do want to point out before we move forward is you'll note that we see these three globes, I guess, or circles that have shown up. These are actually there to act as a breadcrumb trail of sorts to give you a sense for not just how long the process is that you're going to be working in, but also to give you a sense for where you are in that process. So the request access process has 3 different steps associated with it. Currently, the globe number 1 is filled in, so we're currently at the role selection portion of that. From there, we can see that step number 2 would be organization, and step number 3 would be the personal information section there. You can technically also use these circles as a way to navigate from one step to the next. So if, for example, I get all the way to step number 3, personal information, and I say to myself, oh, I wonder if I entered in my organization information correctly, or you just want to review it, you can click on the number 2 circle to take you to the organization step, or click on the number 1 circle to take you to the role selection step. But this should be used, it is interactive, and it should just give you a sense for how long the processes are and where you are in the particular process as well. So I just wanted to point that out to you. But here, we're currently in the process of requesting access as a grant processor, so we choose that role within that role selection section. From there, down below, there is going to be a justification narrative text box, and you just want to enter in the justification for your access request. So here, it could be something as simple as I am a grants processor for the university. It could be something more involved. That's really going to depend, I think, internally as to what your internal controls are going to require from people as far as a justification narrative to get access to the system is going to be. But you do need to enter a narrative of some sort explaining why you're going to need access to the system. Once you've selected your role and entered your justification comments, on the upper right-hand corner of the screen there should be a Next button. You just want to go ahead and click Next to move to Part 2 of the Request Access screen, which, as we can see, is going to be the organization section. So here on Part 2, you just want to click that Find Organization button near the Organization Details text to open up the Search Organization pop-up window and search for your organization. So here, essentially, what we're doing is we're requesting a role, and then we're also letting the system know which organization that we're currently working with so that we can tie that to a profile within ezFedGrants. You select Find Organization. Once you do that, you should get the Search Organization pop-up window that should appear, which will give you different types of search criteria to use to find your organization within the system. As you can see, you do get a number of different pieces of criteria. If you know the DUNS number, for example, for your organization, that might be the best and the easiest way, because that's going to not only give the name of the organization, but also within that number included the actual location as well. So if your organization has multiple offices across the country or across the city, the DUNS number is going to really help to pinpoint what that is. You could also, though, conceivably search by organization name. You could search by city if you wanted to, state, postal code, or even country. Obviously, the more specific you can get with your criteria, the more accurate your search results will be. But you do need to enter in some kind of search criteria. In this example, we're going to search by city, so Davis, and once you've entered in all of the relevant search criteria, you just want to go ahead and click that search button in the lower left corner, and that should then bring up a list of results. And you'll note that once you scroll down in that Search Organization pop-up window, you should be able to view all of the appropriate results. And the results information will give you things such as the organization name, the street number, city, state, postal code, phone number, and country. From there, once you locate your organization within the search results, you just click that Join Organization link to the left of the organization name, and that will then close the Search Organization pop-up window. So once you find your organization, you click Join Organization. From there, it'll enter in all of the associated information into the Organization Details section, and then you can verify that that's the appropriate organization that you wanted to select just by looking at it, and then click the Next button in the upper right-hand corner to proceed to Part 3 of the Request Access screen, which is the personal information portion. So we've gone through, we've selected a role that we want, we've entered in the justification narrative, we've then searched for an organization that we're working for, and now we want to go ahead and enter in some personal information to complete our profile within the ezFedGrants system. The first section that's at the very, very top of that personal information portion is going to ask for point of contact details. And this is going to be details for the designated point of contact for your organization. And again, internally, your organization is going to have to determine who that is. It could be probably best practice, or it could be a good idea to whoever that initial grant administrative officer was for your organization to have them be the point of contact. But again, it's really going to depend upon your own organization to determine who that point of contact is. It could be yourself. Either way, in the point of contact details section, you just want to fill out the form, or the sections of the form that are required, and we can tell they're required because they're marked by an asterisk. So for example, you want to click in the school, department, division, or program field, and enter in your point of contact, school, department, division, and or program for your organization. From there, you just want to enter in the point of contact's name in the supervisory point of contact field. You also then want to enter in the point of contact's email address as well as their phone number where they can be reached at, ideally within the office. And once you enter in the point of contact details, again, not necessarily your own. If you are the point of contact for your organization, obviously you're going to enter in the same information. But if that point of contact is somebody different, you're going to enter in their information. And then when you scroll down to the work contact information portion, this is where you enter in details about yourself. So again, you scroll down to the work contact information section, you enter details about yourself and not your point of contact. Please keep in mind that fields with an asterisk will be required, and that based on your e-authentication profile, some fields might actually pre-populate with information. So keep that in mind as well. But you'll see here, again, we're just filling out fields. So your professional title, you're going to enter into the professional title field. The street field for your work street address, you're going to enter into the street section. Click in the city field and type in your work address city. In the state field, you want to select your work address state from the state drop-down menu. You click in the postal code field and enter in your work address zip or postal code. Down below, again, you want to just click in the phone field and enter in your work phone number that you can be reached at. Your work email address, you want to go ahead and enter that into the work email field. And then once you've entered in all of the required fields, again, just asking you for basic information, you just go ahead and in the upper right-hand corner, you click the Submit button to submit your access request. And once you do that, if your access request is submitted successfully, you should see a confirmation message displayed. Once your request is approved, you will receive a confirmation email based on whatever email account that you entered into the appropriate field for yourself. If your request is rejected for whatever reason, you will also receive a notification including for rejection. At that point, you'll need to access the ezFedGrants system to modify and resubmit your request based on the rejection comments. So maybe, for example, and I'm just thinking off the top of my head here, maybe whoever is approving the access request thinks that your justification narrative needs more information, for example. They could reject your request and let you know that you need to fill in more information, at which point you would just go into the ezFedGrants system, modify your request based on those comments, and then just resubmit. And then they should get that. But you should receive email notifications once it's submitted and also once it's approved or rejected. And that's essentially, though, how you can get access to the ezFedGrants external portal. So as we saw, you first need that level 2 e-authentication access. We saw what that entails. And then once you get that level 2 e-authentication access, that's when you can actually go into the ezFedGrants portal and request access for yourself. So that being said, please keep in mind that there are job aids located at that NFC site, nfc.usda.gov, that we looked at previously. Again, I'll try to make sure that everybody gets a copy of these slides so that you can have these URLs for your records. On that site, there is also an FAQ page. I think there are actually several FAQ documents that might be able to help you if you encounter any questions. Also, of course, your agency representative is always going to be a great resource for pointing you in the right direction if you need some kind of guidance or assistance as well.